This is a brief presentation to explain internal family systems and how this operates as we move through the world. This is going to represent you or anybody. When we're born or created, we are born with two main things. Parts, which are roles that we take in various social settings so that we have the tools needed to navigate different settings in our environment. For example, you may have parts that take on the role of student, son or daughter, father, client or patient, or any other role that you may need to navigate in your life. We are also born with the self or self energy. The self is in charge of the parts. The self blends with the part that makes the most sense to navigate the current setting. Each part has its own set of unique skills and resources to help the self be able to navigate these roles. When you are at work, you are blended with the role of worker, and the tools and resources and mannerisms that you use in this role is different than those that you may use when you're a patient at the hospital or you're out on the town with your friends. What happens is as we move through life and we're in these different roles, we will experience traumatic or difficult events. These events end up damaging the roles if the events fall outside of our window of tolerance. For example, as a 5-year-old child, we feel criticized by our parents who ask us, why can we not get better grades, or why can we not pay attention in class? Or our parents may be unavailable, which means they are not attuned to our emotional needs, and this can cause insecurities and damage the part as well. What happens is we then develop a burden on that part. This part now has a need to heal this wound that it has been given by the outside trauma coming in. The brain responds by wanting to build a system around this wounded part that carries the burden and protect us from it. So we are developing protectors at this point, and this means we have parts that are then assigned an extra role of guarding the wounded part and exiling it so that it cannot be accessed and cannot be wounded again. When this occurs, we now have exiled parts. These are essentially not accessible because the protectors lock them away and guard them. We have two main types of protectors. The main ones are the managers. These are ones that have to do with criticism. There's more planning involved. This may be people who were in a relationship where they felt hurt, maybe become codependent, try too hard to gain the love and respect of others to prove that they are lovable. And then when the managers are unable to work because the exiles start to surface, which they naturally want to do because they want to be healed, the firefighter steps in. The firefighters are more impulsive and they do not think about the bigger picture. This can often be substance abuse, self-harm, or thoughts to harm self. Internal family systems seeks to identify these protectors, which can then help us find and understand what they are protecting. They can lead us to the wounded part. The wounded part can then essentially be healed using different techniques like psychotherapy, EMDR, or other options. When we're able to identify these protectors and gain their trust, the protectors will then move out of the way and allow us to access the exiled part. Once we have access to the exiled part, we can begin to heal the wound and unburden it. And at this point, it will no longer be exiled and be allowed to return to the system and integrate. The traumas that we had before will become lessened. We can still be triggered, however, when triggered, we do not feel the trauma response in the same way because this part has now reconciled and understood the false belief that it holds, and it has been able to let go of the burden that causes the mind and body to experience this re-traumatization. In summary, external family systems seeks to identify the protectors or protective mechanisms that exist, gain their trust so that we can access the wounded part and help it to heal. Once the wounded part is healed, the protectors are no longer needed to protect it, and they can go back to their original role, the roles that they were meant to be in and that they want to be in. So the goal is not to get rid of the protectors, as they have always served a purpose. But we do want to heal the wounded part so that these other parts are no longer worried about having to protect it or exile it where it cannot be healed, and it still has effects on the internal and external processes of the person. Like a family system, when there is a family member who is struggling, wounded, or needs support, the family rallies around this person and provides protection. When this family member is healed or able to take on the role on their own, the family members are no longer burdened by thinking about, worrying about, or having to put energy and time into protecting this person, and they can go back to their normal everyday roles. This is how our brain works internally as well. The protectors can lead us to what they are protecting, which is the exiled wounded part, and then if successfully healed, the symptoms that are associated can subside or eliminate.